everybody. Welcome to this episode of Mismatch. So today we have a very special guest. We have Sarah Baldeo joining us today. So she is the author of 100 Ways to Future-Proof Your Brain. Pretty interesting stuff we're going to dive into today. So as an experienced AI neuroscientist, she is a global futurist, corporate strategist, a 6-time founder with 2 exits. Sarah is a recurring TED speaker. And this year, she reached 19 years of professional keynote speaking across the world. And we have her with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I have so many questions to ask you.
I hope I have all the answers.
You do. That's the thing. You do. Because when I read your book, I want to start off, people might be, intimidated by the title because, and from your background, because you are a neuroscientist, that sometimes that's a little bit intimidating. You're lovely, but very intimidating title because it's like information overload of I don't know how to understand this. But what I will say is when I read your book, I understood every word. And if I can understand it, anyone can. And it was so brilliantly written and the ideas and thoughts were so well organized, Sarah. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I love that feedback.
Yeah. And I genuinely mean it. And like, what I found was really interesting is that this book is not based on just hacks.
No.
This is about like habits that you're meant to build and incorporate to rewire your brain, right?
The whole theory, and several people asked me, so why did you write this book? I said, well, I have been writing this book and rewriting this book for about a decade now.
Wow.
The original manuscript was 1,000 pages, Nicole.
How do you narrow that down?
I put all of my thoughts. So I've been doing this for a really long time. Started out as a neuroscientist, became an AI architect, did all the fun things in corporate, climbing the corporate ladder, being at the big consulting firms. And what I noticed in what was on the market is there was a lot of books about self-care and healing and wellness, which is so important. And then there were books about cognitive science and neuroscience, also important. But it was written in a way to be exclusionary. It was written in a way for scientists and people in life sciences to read it. And so from my perspective, who wants to read that? I don't even want to read. I don't even want to read my 1,000-page thesis. Like, I really don't. And I think, as you said, you perfectly articulated it. It's not hacks. A hack is something you do to cheat life.
Right.
A habit is something you do to permanently rewire your brain, your neural synapses, so they can function better and sustainably for the future. And so what I really wanted to pull together was tangible, actionable insights, the science that I truly believe everybody deserves to have access to, and put it in a format. So I don't know if you noticed this when you're reading it. You don't have to read it front to back.
No. You don't. You can pick a chapter and be like, I want to focus on this or I want to learn about this, which is really cool too, because then you're kind of discovering what you're prioritizing, but you'll end up reading the whole thing.
Hopefully people read all kind of, it's literally 100 chapters, 100 ways. And so that, let's say somebody is struggling with, I'm really struggling with my memory. What can I do? Why is that happening to me? Or, hey, I just got laid off. I'm feeling this way. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I just ended a relationship. What is happening to me? There's a whole chapter that talks about love and 6 different versions of love and how your brain reacts and why it does that. And so I think what people have been asking me for in my work is, I want to know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want to know the science behind it, not fluff, real, tangible science. And I want to know what to do. Don't just tell me why it's happening.
What do I do with this information now that I know that this is what's happening?
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like once you understand it from a scientific perspective, it actually makes you want to do the work more because you can understand like functionally what's happening. Do you know what I mean?
So either you're a scientist or you're a psychic, because when we look at, when you listen to your heartbeat, you can regulate your heartbeat. We talk about this all the time. We're meditating. You know this. We're meditating. We're doing the breath work. Did you know you can do the same thing with your brain? So when you focus on your heartbeat, you can control your heartbeat. When you understand, oh, I'm feeling really sad, that's my amygdala. That's my emotion center. You can control the parts of your brain by being aware of them.
Wow.
It's called biological awareness. And so we talk about breath work, we talk about meditation, we talk about the science
Yeah,
of that.
that makes complete sense. If we have control over that, then why don't we have control over this?
We totally do. And I think it's just, again, like we speak about, it's the access to that knowledge. What if you could control your memory and how your memory functions? What if you could control, when you're in the midst of something really chaotic and painful, that you didn't break down and instead you reacted with logic and rationale? These are, I use this word and I mean it. These are superpowers that people have. The brain is a supercomputer. And I think that what is so challenging is people just don't have access to the knowledge. So I intended for people to read it, to cry, to laugh, to say, oh my gosh. Someone said to me yesterday at Eaton Center at Indigo, she said, I feel like you wrote this book for me.
Aww.
Because I've been feeling these things. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I don't know why I'm having these experiences, and I don't know what to do about it.
So that leads me to my next question is, why now? You said this was a decade in the making.
Yeah.
How did this come to be released in the world now? Did you find out or figure out and felt like this is right now it's going to resonate with people?
So over the past almost 20 years, I've been doing the research. So I've been doing the research, I've been doing the thesis work, I've been in labs, I've been building AI tools, I've been building tech. I've been watching the world go through constant change for almost 2 decades. And as you said, I've done this here in Canada, in the US, in Asia Pacific, in Europe. I'm really fortunate to have had a fantastic corporate career. But what I noticed is these questions kept piling up. And so I thought that it was really the right time to release the science and the research. And I talk about it in the book. I talk about my thesis work. I talk about the discoveries I made and how they can actually help you to take your brain to kind of version 2.0. But I think when we talk about constant change, and we won't get political, but constant change in the world from a political perspective, a sociological perspective, a financial perspective, people losing their jobs, what's happening with AI, what do I do? Is this new? The common theme is change is just speeding up.
Yeah.
And so
people can't handle it. And that's what's creating all this anxiety. I feel like every other person I speak to has anxiety.
It's this intense feeling of, who am I? What is my value in the world? What is my job's value? What's my job security? And we say that this happened just during COVID, but it was happening before COVID.
Yeah.
This whole digital transformation, for the first time in human history, the pace of technology and innovation isn't new. Telephones and fridges and cars, these were innovations that freaked people out. We don't realize it now.
Yeah.
But I talk about it in my work. When the telephone was invented, people thought Alexander Graham Bell was insane. Like, they actually wanted to commit him.
Wow.
And it took 50 years to put telephones into every household, not because people didn't have money, but because they were terrified of the technology they didn't understand.
And now
people, when I go into audiences and I go into corporations, it doesn't matter who I'm talking to. People are terrified. They say, I can't keep up. Every day I learn something, and before I've even learned that new thing, it's now obsolete.
It's true. It's exhausting.
People feel exhausted.
Yeah.
And there's this really scary statistic. It says by the end of a year of college or university, 80% of what the student has learned is superfluous and out of date. Oh, that's insane.
What's the point?
That's how people.
And that's what people are
feeling.
going to feel. Yeah. Which is not good either.
I think that human curiosity and this desire to learn, people feel, well, I just can't keep up.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. My brain is telling me I'm burnt out. I can't do this any longer. I need to tap out. I need to stop. And so we speak about this, you and I, that's actually the time not to stop. That is the time. And this idea of cognitive grit, cognitive resilience, that is the time. And I love this analogy because it's so perfect. If someone's running a marathon, the end of the marathon is not where you stop when you're out of breath.
No.
That's where you push.
100%.
And it's the same with your brain. Your brain has 85% of its neurological capacity that we don't tap into, because when something terrible happens to us, we go into fight or flight mode. It's very normal. There's a whole scientific reason why you do that. this part of your brain, it's the limbic system, it controls emotions and memory. We just default to our like factory settings, and that's how we react to change because it's terrifying.
Interesting.
But that is a choice. It's truly a choice. People can make a decision that they're not going to default to fight or flight mode and survival mode. They're actually going to unlock the part of their brain that is really helping them evolve neurologically as people.
That's so fascinating to me because we're kind of taught the opposite. Totally. Am I wrong in saying that?
We always hear, well, if you're feeling burnt out, you need to slow down.
Yeah. Like stop, you shouldn't feel like
Don't
this.
Push yourself.
Right.
Don't push yourself. What's interesting is when we look at kind of human history, we were nomads, right? We were in like Mesopotamia and Egypt, and we were just traveling around the world, and people were generalists. People knew a lot more. An average person knew what's poisonous, what's not, how to stitch up a wound.
Which I know, I always think is like fascinating to me. I'm like, how did people just know that? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of those things. If you
Thank God I'm not the only one.
And I don't want to be stuck in a forest figuring that stuff out. And now people are specialists.
Yeah.
People have a certain job, a certain career, a certain task, and that's what they do. So when we look at the human brain over time, this idea of, well, just slow down. Don't push yourself. Don't push yourself to go beyond kind of what you feel capable of. From a scientific perspective, this is bad advice. It is bad advice because you're allowing the oldest part of your brain to control you. So when I talk about this limbic system, when I talk about, this emotion and these memory centers, that's the oldest part of your brain. It hasn't changed in 2.5 million years. It's exactly the same.
Really?
And so it's sometimes called, you might have heard, reptilian brain or lizard brain. It's called that because it's the same as in a lizard.
Wow.
Our kind of central brain looks the same as in a reptile. The only thing that makes us human scientifically is the front part of your brain. And that's the part of your brain that uses logic, rational thought, critical thinking, problem solving. I think about some of my personal experiences, like going through divorce or raising a child alone or being laid off. Those were the times when I needed my cognitive resources. Those were the times when I needed to push myself.
Mm-hmm.
I shared with you my most successful company. I founded 6 companies. The most successful company I founded in the thick of that disaster and chaos. And I never say to people, hey, I did it, you can do it too. No, I say, I did it. Here's the science. Here's the science of thousands of people that I have done this research on. You can choose. And I think that is a powerful gift, to choose what you do in the midst of chaos.
It is. It's powerful and also scary because I think a lot. It's much easier, I'll say, to say this happened to me and I can't escape it. The poor me narrative.
Victim.
Exactly. The victim mentality. Yeah.
I can't. People. So I'm a certified career coach, and people will ask me, how did you? I mean, you're not even 40. Like, how did you become a VP by 29 and you got to the C-suite by 30? Like, how did you do these things?
Mm-hmm.
I left home at 18. So in my family, I'd say, you're grown up. Goodbye to you. Good luck. Pay for school. Figure out your stuff. Do your own thing. And Toronto was expensive even back then.
Yeah.
And so this idea of poor me, I feel sorry for me. I feel it's a normal thing. It's I say to people, you're not abnormal, that you're just tired and you just want to stop. But that is instinct. That is that's your ancient brain slowing down and going into this panic mode. There's many different parts of your brain that you could be utilizing. And so I ask people, if you have a computer or if you have an iPhone or if you have a piece of technology, do you use 10% of it? Do you use 20% of it?
Mm-hmm.
Your brain is your most powerful muscle. How much of it are you using? And so when people are told, well, you know what, just you're feeling depressed, you're feeling anxious, and these are real conditions, now is the time for you to stop. I think it's much more about the neurological capacity of what is possible when you help your brain go to that next level. So when we talk about evolution, the brain has kind of stopped evolving because we're not pushing it anymore.
Right. It's like it's a muscle.
It
like
totally
that.
is.
If you don't exercise something, then it just stays or depletes, if anything, which is actually, I mean, I know we didn't plan to go this in the conversation, but like, I feel like Alzheimer's and dementia and all of that is happening younger. And I'm not, again, this is not me scientifically saying this, but like just from what I've noticed, even the people around me and like my grandparents and the elders that are surrounded in my life, like all of those symptoms or those diagnoses is happening at a younger age and more rapidly.
Yeah. I think there's two reasons for that. Number one, diagnostic tests have gotten better, and the knowledge with Alzheimer's and dementia.
You can recognize it.
We can recognize the signs just from a technical perspective and from a medical perspective. But people also have a lot more cognitive labor that they have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So if we think about life 100 years ago or 200 years ago, and we think about life today, the number of things the average person has to keep track of, has to do, has to know, has to understand. And it's not just technology. The amount of things that you need to juggle in any given day is pretty intense. And it's not just for people who live in cities. It's no matter where you live. There's a significant cognitive load on people. And so one of two things is happening. Either people are adapting and they're going through that neurological evolution, or they're not, and they're seeing brain shrinkage. And so when we think about Alzheimer's and dementia, my grandmother has Alzheimer's and dementia. She's 97.
Mm-hmm. Wow, God bless.
She's
97.
She's 97. It's amazing, but she's not herself anymore.
Yeah, that's really sad.
She's lost that cognitive function, that cognitive faculty. There's a chapter in the book where I talk about aging, and I talk about these activities of preventative mechanisms to challenge your brain, challenge your patterns, push yourself. It actually prevents the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia. It actually helps your brain. You know, people say, I'm sure you've heard this, as you get older, you can't learn new things.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah.
That is nonsense. That is not true. As we age, the brain continues to be flexible and adaptable. But it's, believe it or not, it's one of the laziest muscles in the human body.
So it takes a lot of work and practice and repetition and things like that. It takes
a lot of work. It takes a lot of practice. So when I explain this to people, they say, oh, it suddenly makes sense to me. So if you think about, a wire, and there's insulation around the wire, and that's why that's why you have electricity. In your brain, you have two brain cells, and they're connected by something called a synapse. And there's a fat protein around it. Every time you repeat a behavior, that kind of sheath gets thicker and thicker and thicker. It's called the myelin sheath.
Interesting.
And so I have this visual in the book where I show it, and I say, so that's why it's hard to learn new things. Not just because it's hard to learn new things, but because chemically, your brain is insulating this new neural synapse. Like, visualize this.
Yeah.
Imagine you're building a new road in your brain. It takes time.
Takes time.
But if you give up because it's hard and because it takes so many resources from you, you're never going to build that new road. And so that's what happens as people age. They stop being stimulated by the environment around them. Maybe they're alone. Maybe they're not around people. And definitely when we think about memory, I was never taught in school about what I can do to insulate my memory as I get older.
No, that's not something you discuss because it feels like it's so far.
Totally.
That it wasn't even a thought, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, when a lot of people say to me, well, I want to have a better memory. I notice, I'm in my 30s, I'm in my 40s, where at whatever age I am, I just can't. And they always use that word. I can't remember everything I need to do. I can't remember who I need to talk to, birthdays. I always say to them, you can. You can train your memory center.
Yeah.
And so if we stop thinking about the brain in these kind of, amorphous, cloudy concepts, it's just this thing that we don't understand. If the average person starts understanding, no, you have a part of your brain. It's called your memory center. It's your hippocampus. You can train it. You can train yourself to have a better memory, just like you can train yourself to have better apps. You totally can.
Totally.
And people don't, I think, invest in this cognitive exercise.
No.
Not because they don't want to, because they don't know.
They don't know how.
Yeah.
Yeah. it seems like a foreign language of like how to understand your brain, if that makes sense.
And that's what I love what you shared, that it's accessible to read, because I didn't write it to put another barrier between the science and people.
Yeah.
I wrote it because the frameworks that I discovered in my research, and it's not just my research that I rely upon. I mean, this research has been done for hundreds of years.
But you also added like personal experiences to the book, which is also really powerful to see how you've applied it in your life and put it into action. And Sarah, like you opened up not on a light note of what you've gone through and trauma.
It's intense.
Yeah.
Like chapter 1, I said, let me just rip the Band-Aid off. The most traumatic experience. Let's dive into that.
But it made me want to listen right away and be like, holy shit, if she can go through this, I'm here for this. I want to know how I can do the same, you know?
Definitely deliberate. That was deliberate because I think I'm a big proponent of, a lot of experts and scientists, they have all these theories. They're very theoretical. Theoretically, okay, practice what you preach.
Yeah.
If you haven't gone through it, if you haven't gone through the difficult, excruciating, grueling experiences that people do, don't tell me what to do about it.
Yeah.
And so I really feel that it is hard to be vulnerable. I am much more comfortable in the lab doing research, building tech, building neurotechnology, dissecting brains. I'm very comfortable with that. But I think that it's a responsibility to say, if you have knowledge and you've discovered actual scientific research that proves that people can survive, not just, I don't even like that word, just survive, but thrive through the chaos.
Yeah.
Why not share that? That's something that deserves to be shared. And so it certainly, it took a lot of time. You mentioned, you asked me, what was the timing? It took a lot of personal work for me to even feel I'm ready to share some of these experiences, and the experiences that are going to ground the research and that really say, hey, like I've gone through this. I'm not saying that I understand exactly what everyone else is going through. And we talk about empathy.
That. Yeah.
But I do want people to know life happens. Horrible, horrible things happen. And you don't just have to let life happen to you. You are in control. You are in the driver's seat of your brain and of your life. And your brain is what controls you. And so you are the one who makes the decision to say, I want to take it to the next level. I want to go through that neural evolution. That next step of who I'm going to be is not only emotional, it's going to be cognitive too.
And it's interesting because the decision that you had to make wasn't an easy one, if you're able to share.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
So when I was 24, you know this about me. I love to plan. I have my lists. I have my planning. I know how things are going to go, or I'm going to make them go that way.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it
I'm the
happen.
same.
And that's a lovely sense of control. Unfortunately, cancer is one of those things that you don't control. So I was 24. I was married. I had my plan. Things were going my way. I had I had a great corporate role, and I was pregnant. I was like, I want to have a baby at this time. And this is what's going to happen. And when I was 6 months pregnant, my doctor called me and shared news that completely felt like it was derailing all my plans. And he said, we discovered stage 4 cancer cells.
Oh my God.
It's aggressive. I really recommend that you have surgery. We're going to cut out a piece of your cervix. We're going to have you go through some treatments. And it's probably going to be fine. But I need to warn you, there's a probably 99% chance that you're going to have a miscarriage.
Oh my gosh.
And so at that juncture, and I say to people, everyone experiences pregnancy and motherhood and pregnancy loss and miscarriage differently. And I could never understand what another person went through. But for me in that moment, for my doctor to say that, I was livid. I was about to go into my 3rd trimester. I had all these dreams and hopes, and it really,
of course,
it really came down to the choice given to me was my life or the life of my son. And I remember the people around me. There were people in my family, there were friends who said, you can always have another baby. It was so reductionist. It was very judgmental.
For sure. It comes from a place of love because they want
Totally.
you to be okay.
Of course.
But not what you needed to hear.
I think it was so painful to feel like my child's life was just this transaction that could be ended. And well, you can just have another baby because you're young, and what are you doing? And so I did lose relationships with friends and family when I made the decision. I told my doctor, you know what? I know what I'm doing. I understand the risks. I'm going to go through with my pregnancy, and I will deal with the consequences.
Wow.
There may be consequences, and whatever the consequences are, I will deal with. But I plan to have my son. I'm going to have my son, and if things progress, so be it. And so I went through the rest of my pregnancy. They continued to kind of monitor how things were, and my doctors at Sunnybrook were very nervous, and they warned me, like, this is an intense decision that you're making. This is we can't tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And so today, my son will turn 15 at the end of this year. I have been, oh my gosh, now almost 16 years cancer-free.
Wow. That's amazing.
Thank you. Like, that's such a long time.
Yeah.
And so I have to go back for cervical cancer screenings. But that is a moment when I should have shut down. I should have shut down. I should have said, I can't work. I can't function. I can't run my business. I can't do anything. Nicole, that was the time that I built my most successful business.
That's like, what?
That was the time. So the company that I run now is a neurotechnology company. It operates in 40 countries. We work with the coolest. We work with the government, with the departments of defense. We get to build neurotechnology, and we get to build very cool cognitive science AI tools. That was when I started that company.
How?
So this is the research. And I say to people, so there's a tool that I discovered when I was finishing my thesis work. It has a very long name, but the short version is ballistic interruption. It has 3 steps. And so I talk about it in my TED Talk from a couple of years. But the first step is called biological awareness. It is being aware of what is happening. Why am I feeling panic? Why do I feel like shutting down? Why am I going into this, like, just anxiety mode and I can't function? And that awareness, like we talked about, is actually the ability to control those parts of your brain. It's the ability to control your limbic system, to control your neurotransmitters, the chemicals that are pumping through your body. That is the first, just like you can control your heartbeat. That is the first step and it's called ballistic interruption because you're interrupting
happening.
your kind of default setting. So that's step 1. And it's the hardest step because people have to learn. They have to learn about what's happening. They have to learn, okay, like, this is the part of my brain that's taking over right now. This is why I'm reacting that way. I'm actually aware of it. That awareness, just like your awareness of your heartbeat, of your pulse, of your breathing, you can control your brain. That's the first step. The second step is called planning and rationalization. And so when I got this call from my doctor, of course, I needed to pause and say, okay, what is happening? My emotion center's in overdrive. My amygdala is pumping out adrenaline. It's pumping out cortisol, which is a stress hormone. This is what is happening. This is why I'm feeling like hyperventilating. This is why I feel out of control. The second step was, and it sounds silly, it's called planning and rationalization because it accesses the front part of your brain that is in control of anytime you plan something. Because you have to plan for the future. You have to reflect on what you're doing now. You have to access your memory. It literally builds a bridge between that old lizard brain and your new brain. You can actually, it's amazing. We can see it in MRIs. So in that moment, it was, okay, I'm gonna pause. I'm going to become biologically aware. And now I'm going to plan how, and I mean granular, detailed planning.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to wear to the doctor. This is the route that I'm going to take. These are the streets that I'm going to take. And it sounds silly because how does that help you? It helps you because you're building the connections between different neurological parts of your brain.
Interesting.
And what it does is it hijacks your brain.
Wow.
It's I hate to use the word hack, but you're hacking your instinctual response, and you're hijacking that, oh my gosh, my life is over.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I really was faced with a life or death situation. And when you hijack that, you override your brain's factory settings. And it helps you to kind of get to the point of, okay, well, now I'm in logic mode. I'm in planning mode. I'm in rational, critical thinking mode. And then the last step, I talk about it in the book. It's called neuronal visualization. Sounds way more complicated than it is. All you do is you visualize this new neural synapse that you've built between your old brain and your new brain. And it activates your vision center, which ironically is at the back of your head. Doesn't make any sense.
Really?
You'd think it would be at the front.
Yeah.
Because that's where your eyes are. And when you do that, it hard codes that memory, and it hard codes that whole approach that you've taken.
So that if something else were to happen that ignites the same part of your brain, it knows what to do.
It knows what to do. So the next time something happens, and so it's this tool that you're building for the future for your brain. And it's really difficult to do. But I say to people, imagine every time something bad happened, you got to make a choice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to devolve into panic mode. If I'm feeling like I'm burning out, actually, I am in control. I'm not in control of the things that happen, of the cancer diagnosis, of, breaking up with someone who's treating me poorly. I'm in control of my reaction. And we are always in control of our reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason that's, sometimes not the most popular thing to say is because it makes us accountable. Then we've got to take responsibility for the things that happen.
Right.
And how we dealt with it.
You can't be saying, oh, I had to do that. Of course I did that. That was like the even like you're saying, like that's a natural response.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's our jobs to not tap into that.
Hopefully we've evolved in the past 1,000 years. I always ask people,
debatable.
We say, right? We always say, look at us. We're inventing things. We've evolved so much. We've got almost 9 billion people on the planet. Look at us. We're great. Have we evolved? And it's a hard question to ask yourself. Are we reacting, thousands of years ago when somebody was out on the tundra and the world didn't have like these great metropolises and you encountered a lion, you were reacting with instinct. We don't exist 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And so the real question, the hard question is, have I pushed my brain to evolve? Am I reacting differently than I would have? And it is interesting, the way your brain reacts to a physical threat, like getting into a car accident, for example, is the same way your brain reacts to an emotional threat.
Interesting.
So we can see like rejection. Rejection is painful.
Rejection is painful.
And your brain reacts the same way as if somebody physically harmed you.
Wow.
Exactly.
Honestly,
the same way.
I can totally relate to that because I take rejection very hard and it's like I always have ever since I was a kid. So that's interesting that you're comparing the physical pain to what that feels like.
Because your brain is coding for it the same way. It's a threat to you. And so as we navigate life, that's pretty much what your brain is doing. Your brain is scanning the environment, and it's, when we look at friends, is this person going to be a friend or a foe? Mm-hmm. Are they going to be a threat or a resource? Mm-hmm. And so when we go through these emotional situations and we react and it feels painful, your body is chemically reacting the same. You're still seeing this epinephrine, this adrenaline, this cortisol. When you make a new friend and you get that spike of dopamine and you think, wow, they really like me.
Yeah.
They accept me. They really, really like me. That's just dopamine in your brain. It's giving you a little reward. It's giving you a nice little kick of energy. And so, I don't want to reduce human relationships to just being chemicals and neurotransmitters, but it's the way we feel.
It changes the way you approach certain things, I think, by understanding that. And like one of the things that I found especially fascinating was the discussion of empathy. And like I said, like that's not scientific, that's like emotional, right? Yeah. But it is scientific because one of the things that I think was written, it was like, it's really toxic and terrible to say, I know how you feel. And when I read that, Sarah, I wanted to punch myself in the face. I was like, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I was like, no, that's really bad. And after reading why, it was like, oh, I get it.
And it's so, it's so instinctual, right?
Yeah.
Somebody shares a horrible experience, or somebody says, I just went through a breakup and I'm feeling horrible. And the first words in your head, maybe not out of your mouth, but definitely in your head, are, I know exactly how you feel.
Oh, I will say it's not been in my head. I have verbally said that out loud.
And
but why is that bad? Explain why that's harmful.
The reason it's so harmful is it's trivializing the person's experience. And so you mean it from a place of,
right, compassion of, yes, exactly.
I feel compassion for you. But when you do that, the message you're sending is, what you went through, this is not about you. It's about me. It's about what I went through. And from a neurological perspective, we do that because when we go out into the world, we're looking for things that are familiar. We're looking for patterns. We're trying to classify things and trying to give things labels. So anyone says, no, I don't label. Yes, you do. Everybody labels everything. Mm-hmm. That's how your brain processes information. It has things that are called schemas. It tries to put them into little folders, little boxes. That's the only way that we navigate the world. Mm-hmm. So labeling something and saying, oh, this person is talking. They're talking about a breakup. I went through a breakup. I know exactly what it is. I don't need turn off.
Yeah.
Put into the folder.
Yeah.
That's what your brain is doing. But from an empathy perspective, that's not expressing empathy in a true meaning of the word. Because what you're doing is you're sending a message to someone to say, yeah, I went through that and I dealt with it and you should deal with it too.
Right.
And the way that I dealt with it was either the right way or the wrong way. It isn't empathetic. The empathetic thing to do is to ask them, how is it making you feel? What are the experiences that you're having? Is this triggering things for you? I had this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, actually. She texted me and she said, I feel like I finally accept that my mom is never going to love me for who I am.
Oh.
She was watching Love Island.
Oh.
She was watching Love Island, and she's like, this moment where the parents were so accepting.
Yeah.
And I don't watch Love Island, but I was like, wow. So you were watching this, and it triggered something in you, and you felt this. I don't have any relationship with my biological mom at all. And so my instinct is to say, I know exactly how you feel. You know what? I'm never going to have that mother relationship that I want to have. That would have been the worst thing to do in that moment. Mm-hmm. It hijacks a situation and a
from what your friend was going through and feeling.
And it basically just says, yeah, let me put it into this little folder. I totally know what I'm going to use to respond to you. Mm-hmm. Instead, I said to her, what is going on in your life right now that is triggering you at this point in time? Because this is not a new feeling. There's something else that is happening. And just asking her that question, she's like, wow, you know what? It's the anniversary of a death of somebody who just turned the age that she just turned 40. And she's like, yeah, this, I understand. Like you didn't make a statement, Sarah. You asked me a question.
Yeah.
And so when you're going through these relationship dynamics in your friendships and you're expressing empathy is really about giving the person space to share with you what they are experiencing from an emotional lens.
It's not your job to tell them. It isn't.
And I think when you practice empathy in that way, where you pause and you interrupt yourself and you say, it's not about me. Now launching into my story of everything, yay me, I'm a hero of the story, I've survived so much. That is not empathy. That is selfish. And I'm not calling you selfish. But it's fine, Sarah. I initially want to do that because it's human nature for us to want to classify things in a way that we understand, because we navigate the world from our own space. Mm-hmm. So all you're trying to do is say, hey, I understand you. That's what you're trying to say.
Right.
And my first instinct after all these years of research was still the same in my head. Well, I know exactly how you feel. It takes the work, it takes the cognitive work to say, what is this person sharing? Mm-hmm. I'm going to pause. This friend is coming to me, sharing this experience. What can I do to help them? to really be empathetic. To really be empathetic, I can help them unpack the other layers of what is happening. I can help them think, oh, it actually wasn't watching Love Island. It was actually this other thing that happened a week ago that,
brought on.
That actually caused my memory center to activate. And then it opened all these other emotions and these feelings that I was experiencing. True empathy is hard.
It's really hard. And like you said, I think it's something that you kind of develop and work on over time as you pay more attention to yourself and how you react to other people. And I always say this, Sarah, I'm a big believer on like think before you speak, because once you say something, you cannot take it back, and you don't know the repercussions of how what you've said is going to really impact and be long lasting to the person that you say them to.
I mean, definitely, I'm a mom. So I have to all the time stop myself from saying, when I was your age. Or he says, back in, what does he say? He's like, back in the 1900s, Mom, when you were born, like way back in the day before 2000s. It is, I think, anything where you have to challenge your patterns. And these are patterns that we have as a society. Our parents, for sure, my parents told me all the time, when I was your age.
For sure.
And I went through that.
I walked up the hill across the way to go to school, and here you are.
In the snow. And then meanwhile, they're from a hot country, like there's no snow. What are you talking about? It is, I think, a level of neurological evolution that we see generationally now that honestly we didn't see before. People had other things to think about. Life has become easier in a lot of ways. It's become difficult in, I think, emotional ways, because this cognitive capacity to even, with the parental figures in my life, to have these conversations, they weren't thinking about these things.
No.
They were thinking about paying the bills, working, making sure that the family was taken care of. They weren't thinking about introspection and, maybe I need to have a more cognitively mature relationship with my friends, with my children, with my partner. And I think this shows up really, really well in romantic relationships, because when your partner comes to you and is like, I had a really bad day at work, it might be so easy to say, oh my gosh, wait till you hear my day. My day was worse than your day. And we do have this human tendency to compete. It's a human nature to just say, one, I know what you're going through. And two,
mine was way worse.
Mine was way worse. My day was terrible.
Yeah.
And it does trivialize the experience of the other person. And it shuts the door on them even sharing with you what is happening. And so I've been married, I've been divorced. I just got remarried last year.
To a lovely man. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. It took a long time. And I always joke and say, so we met when I was doing my executive MBA, which I had wanted to do for so long. I had actually wanted to do the year I was 24. Then I got pregnant, and then cancer, and then treatment. And I kept telling myself, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And over the years, it took almost 10 years. Over the years, I got accepted to 3 different programs.
Wow.
One in the UK, Queen's Smith, and then U of T. And I kept getting accepted. I kept getting scholarships, and then bad things would happen. Second time around, my grandfather and my uncle died 2 weeks apart.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, I can't, I need to be with my family. I need to support my family. And so I met my husband when I finally went through and did my MBA. And I always joke that I got such a good investment. Let me tell you, when I started the program, I was in a serious relationship, and so was he. Neither one of us was thinking. We did not work together during those 2 years. We did not work on projects together. We didn't date. We had different friend groups. Neither one of us planned to get into a relationship.
Isn't that interesting?
It is just, I think, the serendipity of life.
Yeah.
And I love to tell this story. He'll probably be embarrassed if I tell this story. But he sent me a message on LinkedIn the day before my birthday when we were starting the program. This was September 1st. And he said, there's not many entrepreneurs in this program. It's a highly competitive program. There's 3 of us. I'm one, you're one, and there's one other person. And I totally read the message. I left him on red. And
you didn't respond. You're like,
I didn't respond.
You're like, this is weird. He's messaging me on here.
I didn't. I don't even remember what I thought, but I remember it was midst of COVID. my son, I was homeschooling my kid. I was running a company and I was finishing my degree. I'm like, I don't have time to reply on LinkedIn. And so the joke is 2 years later, on his birthday, I text him because I would organize dinners. I text him and I say, oh, here's my new number. And he's like, what? It's my birthday today. Why are you texting me? And so the joke I make is, you know, my relationship, excellent investment. Thank you, U of T. I really met I use this word, and I use this word in the book, equally yoked partner. Mm-hmm. An equally yoked partner doesn't mean they're exactly like you.
No.
It means that they are cognitively aligned. They can challenge you. They can help you grow, that you have the same values, that you understand each other. Maybe you've gone through some similar experiences. And so this equally yoked connection, I think being cognitively aligned to your partner is huge. It is. People say that the most important thing in your life is who you choose to build a life with. Mm-hmm. It can be hell if you choose the wrong person.
For sure.
And I know this from my own relationships. If you choose the wrong person, think about how many cognitive resources and how much energy you have to put into navigating that. You don't have time for anything else.
No, it sucks the life out of you when you have to work that hard at trying to be understood, you know?
Or even for someone to value you.
Yeah.
To value you as a person.
Yeah, 100%.
To think, you know, I appreciate this person. I'm going to show up for this person. And I do think, you know, it sounds old fashioned to say, I do think you should feel safe with your partner.
100%.
Physically safe, emotionally safe, mentally safe. You should feel safe with your partner. And it's not something, you know, my parents got divorced when I was 3 years old. And within a very short period of time, they remarried other people. I don't remember growing up talking about emotional safety, psychological safety, why I needed to look for this in a partner, and even how to practice empathy with my partner. When my partner comes to me and says something, if my husband comes to me and says, you know, oh, we were working on this project, it was really difficult, it is hard for me to stop and say, I'm not going to make it about me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you that space, that verbal space, and I'm actually going to refocus my mental energy to truly be empathetic. It's tough because you really, all you want to do is you want to share with the person.
Yeah, you want to share and you want to help fix them. I remember I dated a guy who was lovely. Honestly, the loveliest. He treated me like a absolute princess. But I'll never forget, Sarah, and this is why I ended it, is I had like a really bad day and I came home and I was like crying, and his immediate reaction was to, it was like, you're going to do this. We're going to sit down. We're going to plan this. And And it was all these like proactive suggestions and I know it was coming from a place of love, of like trying to fix the scenario that I was in. But I turned to him and I said, I was like, all I need you to do is hug me. I'm like, I don't need you to fix it right now. I need you to just be here and say, what is it you're feeling right now? Questions like that. Yeah. And his brain just didn't operate that way. He just wasn't that kind of guy. Yeah. And ultimately that's why I had said, I was like, listen, I love you and respect you as a person, but I'm not in love with you because I don't feel like I can get there. And that's why I couldn't get there, because I felt like I couldn't be safe in that space of when I was going through something terrible, that I would feel the support that I needed, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. I'll share with you a dating story. So I was dating this person who I had known actually for years through work. We both owned companies and he's very successful and we were friends for a while. Finally, both of us are single at the same time. It's not the first time he asked me out, but this time he asked me out, I was
You were single.
He was like, oh, I like you. I think you're fantastic. Yeah. I want to date you. I want to steal you away from anyone. If you're single or not, I really don't care. That should have been like red flag number one. But no.
But at the time you're like, that's so sweet.
Oh my God, it's so romantic. No, you're crazy. So I went through a really horrible experience at work. I was working for a pretty big organization in Toronto. And I was dealing with some people who were behaving unethically. They were working on projects and they were doing unethical things. Like they were thinking about like taking bribes from clients. This is insane. And so I left the company. And so I went over to his house after. He's like, I want you to come over. I want to be supportive. I went over to his house. And then he turns to me, and obviously I'm not sharing names. And he says, I've really been thinking about killing myself. Out of nowhere.
You're kidding.
I just like, and I'm like, well, I wish you would have shared that with me.
Yeah.
But this is the moment that you decided to share that with me.
Yeah.
And so the red flag to me was at every point in our relationship where I was going through something difficult or I wasn't perfect. I wasn't this fairy tale princess. And I had something that was hard. He made it about him. He didn't make it about him in this way of, hey, I know what you're going through. He made it about him in this is this terrible thing happening to me. And that was like the extreme level.
That's like, yeah.
Crazy.
You don't unload something like that. This is the dating stories
women in Toronto. This is what happens. No, not just in Toronto. But it was, one of those things where, and this does happen in relationships, where when somebody feels that you're going through a scenario, and this is like, there's a psychological component to it. When you're dating someone and they feel like you're going through a situation that they're going to have to emotionally support you, and it's going to be about you, they deliberately refocus onto them so that they don't have to do that. This is one of the key pillars of narcissism. So that's
that thing that I've
that great thing in dating. And so this is a huge red flag for people. When you're dating, this is like the neuroscience of it. Pay attention. When you're going through a difficult moment, does the person, it's okay if they say, hey, I went through that. That's like the instinctual reaction. But do they try deliberately to refocus the emotional resources? I say to people in a relationship, you have two parties, and they both have resources. They both have an emotional bucket. And ideally, when you start the day and you start the relationship, you should never start a relationship if somebody has a half empty bucket. That's not good. You should have at least the same level of resources in your bucket. Always pay attention. Are they trying to kind of just keep all the resources of the emotional bandwidth for themselves? People do that.
That's a really good question to ask.
It is the greatest hallmark of narcissism.
Yeah.
And I say this specifically to women. If you ever feel like you're attracting men who want to take from you, or women who want to take from you, or partners who want to take from you, there's a reason that's happening. Because narcissists, it's kind of like, you're kind of like this beacon. You're this beacon of positivity and optimism and strength, cognitive strength. That's really attractive to a narcissist because your emotional bucket is full and they can come and they can take from it. And so I always say to people, hey, I've made mistakes in relationships. I have been in good relationships, bad relationships, negative ones, violent ones, but ask yourself, if I had a bucket full of my emotional resources, do they have the same level? A normal relationship goes through ebbs and flows.
Of course.
Sometimes you're going to have more emotional resources than your partner, but do you start from that place? That's a hard question.
That is a really hard question
because it's not about money. It's not about finances. It's not about success. It's not about how much either one of you has achieved. It's really about, do we align in our emotional resilience and our emotional maturity and this kind of bucket that we all carry around? Why am I starting a relationship with someone who has no emotional resources? Oh, they're going to take mine. They're going to take all of it. And that's what happens with narcissists. Because they get a kick out of it. By the time you break up,
just because of that, because
by the time you break up, it's a power thing. And so the dopamine kick, like if you look at a narcissist's brain, normal people like power. Everybody likes to be in control. Everybody likes to be in charge. A narcissist gets a dopamine kick from controlling another person.
Interesting.
We can see it.
I was just gonna say, have you compared brains of like what you can chemically track of someone who is a narcissist and someone who isn't?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You can see, I mean, I wouldn't want to say all narcissists are psychopaths. Not all narcissists are psychopaths.
I'll say it. Yes, they are.
They are psychopaths. But we can actually see that this, dopamine is this pleasure. It's this pleasure chemical, right? It's what we get from achieving things and making friends and having fun. It's the spike that we get. It's what we're constantly chasing. But it's a short-term chemical reaction. Serotonin is the long-term happiness hormone. A narcissist has these dopamine spikes when they have control over another person. When they have that, and I don't want to use the word dominance because it's not about dominance. It's about how can I totally gaslight this person?
Yeah.
How can I manipulate this person and manipulate the truth, manipulate what's happening, manipulate scenarios? And so if you've ever been in a relationship with a narcissist, they thrive on that.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they're doing. They have this emotional bucket and that's how they get their emotional happiness from controlling,
and controlling,
manipulating. And we see it in MRIs. We can see this dopamine spike. Why? Because that's what gives them joy. That's what gives them pleasure. It's scientific. It's totally scientific that that's the way their brain is wired. Obviously, they're choosing not to rewire their brain.
So that's what I was going to ask. Is it capable for a narcissist to change and or grow?
It is possible.
It's possible.
With significant amounts of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But the most crucial component is self-awareness. And the problem is that most narcissists are not self-aware.
Right.
And they're not.
And they're in denial. Like they're either in complete denial or they'll manipulate it again to not seem like they're at fault.
And they're not incentivized
to
be self-aware. Because being self-aware for a normal person, being self-aware gives you, it's hard, right? But then you start peeling back the layers and you say, oh, that's why I do that. Oh, this is a negative part of me. A narcissist, that's painful for a narcissist. That's excruciating for a narcissist because then they'd have to essentially redefine their entire identity. How do they make themselves feel good?
Mm-hmm.
They can't anymore because they'd have to completely re-architect their life. And so narcissists don't tend to exhibit empathy. They can fake it.
Mm-hmm.
They can fake it really well to love bomb someone, to reel someone into a relationship. And it's this idea of manipulation and lying. And so manipulation and lying actually in your brain, it activates your creativity center. It activates the part of your brain because you're telling a story.
I was just going to say, because you're making it up. It's an imagination.
But the reason that they're so convincing is they convince themselves that it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
The best way
they believe it.
Oh, yeah. The best way for somebody. So there's all kinds of indicators to tell if somebody's lying to you. The number one way that people say, and if you look at body language experts, they say this.
Isn't it like the eyeballs they move?
Yeah, where their eyes are going.
Yeah.
If they're looking up and to the left, they're tending to access the creativity parts of their brain so they can tell you a story. Obviously, you can look at their pulse, but I think the best way in a relationship to say, is this person practicing cognitive empathy? What happens when things are at their worst for you in a relationship? What do?
Mm-hmm.
Do they try to fix you? Do they make it about them? Do they say, oh, all these emotional resources are going to go to Nicole or Sarah now? I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be the one that's holding this bucket full of resources. It needs to be about me. Narcissists are really good at that. And it always becomes, it's a pattern, right? I think if you date enough narcissists,
you see it.
You're like, wait a second. Things are really, really great at the beginning. There's a lot of intense love bombing that happens. Everything feels perfect. I feel great about me. And then all of a sudden, I don't feel so great about me.
Mm-hmm.
And they want me. They actually take pleasure, it seems like, in slowly eradicating my sense of self and my sense of confidence.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh my God, this person is addicted to the dopamine drug and the high they get off of controlling
making me feel. Yeah.
They're literally feeling.
I can relate to that more than anything. Oh, yeah, it's
Nicole,
wild.
They're feeling a high.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh my God, I'm totally in control of this person. I have power over this person. And so from a neurological perspective, they're doing it because they get a rush.
Mm-hmm.
Which is it's disgusting.
It's terrible.
But there's a reason that they're doing it. So can a narcissist change? In theory, a narcissist can change.
Got it.
It's almost impossible because they're never going to be self-aware.
Yeah.
And so I have friends who say, you know, like I see these narcissistic tendencies, and I ask, are you going to invest all the resources that you have? I don't think you should be selfish in a relationship, but you do have to have self-love in a relationship.
You have to. If you don't have that, then I don't think you're capable of loving someone else. And if someone, what I've learned the hard way is if someone takes that from you, that's like the immediate red flag too.
Totally. If somebody doesn't want you to feel confident and in control and powerful in a healthy way, then what are they doing with you?
Right.
I always ask that question. I'm like, wait a second. Yeah. So you don't want me.
They want to control you.
When I was married before, I would have arguments with my ex-husband all the time about what I was wearing. All the time. What I was wearing to work, what I would wear for a night out, what I would wear to dinner. It was the level of control to, I don't want other people to look at you. And I was like, this is okay. You know, at that point in my life, I was in my 20s and I thought, oh, you know, he just really loves me.
Right. He's protective over me. Yes.
He wants to keep me safe. And I realized after many years of therapy, it was never about me. It was never about me. It was about him. It was about his sense of control, his insecurities, his idea of, I'm going to tell you what to wear. I want to be able to tell you what to wear, who your friends are going to be, what you're going to do, where you're going to go. And I think, you know, a lot of the stories that I share, I don't share all of my stories because I'm saving those for the next book.
Obviously.
But I share these stories of, you know, when you're in these situations and you're experiencing, especially if you're experiencing like intimate partner violence, what is happening to you?
Yeah.
And so for somebody, when you experience intimate partner violence, your brain goes into shock. Your brain goes into shock because from the time you're a baby, your limbic system is developing. And the first lesson we learn is this: people that love us keep us safe. If somebody loves you, they're going to keep you safe. They're going to hold you. They're going to care for you. They're going to make sure that you are safe. When somebody is emotionally, physically, mentally abusive, your brain actually goes into it has a little bit of a seizure actually, because that behavior contradicts everything you've been taught since you were born.
What love and safety is. Yeah.
And that's why your brain reacts as in total confusion. And the instinctual response that we see is you try to fix it. And you try to ascribe blame to yourself. People do this. So the cognitive reaction is, there must have been something I did. People always look to themselves first. And so when somebody is abusive in that way, your first reaction is to have this little kind of a seizure and say, this contradicts everything I know about what love is supposed to be. Second reaction that you have is, well, I need to fix it. There must have been something that I did for this person to make me feel unsafe, to violate me in this way. And whether it's emotional or it's physical or it's mental, it is a violation. It's a violation of trust.
For sure.
And so that's why when we see abusive relationships, and there are many ways to be abusive, that's why it's so hard to get out of them. Because your brain is telling you, wait a second. No, you have good judgment. You wouldn't be with somebody. You're too smart for that. Your brain is telling you, and it's kind of your self-defense.
There must have been something you did to make him behave like that.
It's also a self-defense mechanism, right? Yeah. I make good choices. Everybody wants to feel that. Everybody wants to feel, I make good choices. I wouldn't choose a person that's not good for me. And I have good judgment. And so with adultery, one of the things that happens in the human brain is your brain has to go through a rewiring of your whole memory. And so the part of your brain that controls your memory is called your hippocampus, and it's kind of like a library. It has a library of things that happened. When you have somebody be unfaithful to you, your hippocampus is jarred because what you thought happened didn't happen. And so it starts opening all your memory files. So, you know,
trying to go back and figure out,
do I know? What else don't I know?
That makes sense.
What? Wait a second. And so this feeling of, I've now discovered this person has been unfaithful to me. I have to question everything. It's perfectly natural. It's your brain saying, your brain looks at reality and it says, you know, this is a table, this is a book, I'm sitting here, you're sitting there. This is exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's recording all this data and information. And what you tell me, what you share with me. When we discover that someone has deceived us in this very intimate way, you have to reopen it. You have to reopen. And that's why you question everything. And so this feeling of, I don't know if anything is true. Do I even trust myself anymore? That's your brain's reaction to saying, okay, we now got to rejig this whole library of experiences because none of it is true.
Been there.
So in my marriage previously, that I went through this like adultery and unfaithfulness and being told, you're crazy.
Well, because that's what they do.
You know what? You're jealous. You're jealous. You're delusional. What are you talking about? That didn't happen. Here's the texts. Let me prove it to you.
Yeah.
And the stakes get higher, right? The person is showing you. And so I know what it is to go through this experience of, I question everything. I question my judgment. It is one of the cruelest things you can do to a person. It truly is. And there are many different types of relationships. As long as people are aligned on what kind of relationship they want to have, that's fine.
How do you then, Sarah, protect yourself, or maybe the question I should be asking is like, what are the tools that every person should have to protect themselves from that, or to at least be able to recognize that if it's happening?
I know it sounds silly, but I encourage people when they start seeing, whenever you start thinking, this person is lying to me. There's many ways to lie. It's not just cheating. There's many ways to deceive someone. You know, there's financial dishonesty. I have met couples where one party is like, oh, I totally was gambling, but then lied about it. And then there's no more college fund for kids. There's all kinds of ways to betray someone's trust. The best thing to do is when you start observing these things, write it down.
Okay.
It's so simple.
That is simple.
The reason you do it is you activate your motor cortex. There's a part of your brain that controls the motor cortex, and there's another part that controls language. So when somebody tells you a story, write it down. It could be journaling, but you don't have to journal. Just write it down and date it. And every time they tell you something, write it down and date it. Because what happens in these situations of deceit and manipulation is they kind of override your memory. And you find yourself, you're like, actually, did they say that? I don't remember. Did they really say that? What day was that? What happened? Where were they? Was this really happening? Your memory fools you. It's called confirmation bias. So in the book, I talk about confirmation bias. We want to believe certain things. We have a tendency to seek out what we want to believe. The best way to protect yourself is to have a record of what really happened. And people will say, oh, this sounds totally crazy. What are you just going to write? No, write it down.
Yeah.
And we know when there is that instinctual feeling, you know, oh, I know something is off. That's because you're noticing these microscopic indicators that your brain picks up on. Your brain picks up on facial movements. It picks up on like twinges that people do.
Interesting.
It picks up on how often somebody blinks, on the eye contact, on pupil dilation.
It's like your brain knows even if you don't actually know.
Do you know
That's
when people
wild.
Are lying, the size of their pupil changes?
Really?
It actually changes. So you don't consciously know, but your subconscious is tracking these things. It's tracking movement of the eyes, pupil dilation, the breath, like how fast the person is breathing. And so it actually is a signal to you. Your brain is sending you a signal. It's like something is off. This person is acting in a deviant way. You just don't know what's happening. So your brain has natural protection mechanisms. So when you have this instinctual, something is off, something is wrong, listen to it. It's not just this, amorphous instinct. It's your brain tracking and protecting you.
Wow.
And I encourage people, when you start having these feelings, I tell you to date it because I've done this myself and I've encouraged other people to do it. And they're like, you know what? When I actually went down and I read it and I saw how totally divergent from reality and the truth things were, it wasn't easy for that person to manipulate me. because I remembered.
You could see, yeah.
You know this joke? You have the screenshots, you keep the receipts.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I am total Virgo energy. I'm like, I keep the receipts for everything.
Totally.
I will win the argument because I know what was said.
Yeah.
And in relationships, so yeah, when you start having these feelings, know that it is grounded in a biological response to someone deceiving you. And you can track it. You can track it cognitively, but you should write it down. You should activate the parts of your brain that are focused on logic and rational thinking, because it's very easy for somebody to manipulate you. And confirmation bias is a human instinct. You're like, I want to believe that.
Yeah.
Who wants to believe that someone is deceiving them?
No.
Nobody. It's a terrible, terrible feeling.
Totally.
It's like we talked about. It's like rejection. It's painful because it means that everything that you navigated your life with, this foundational truth, is fake.
Yeah.
And you can't even trust yourself. And so I say to people, yeah, you know what? You start having those feelings, your brain is giving you warning signs.
Yeah.
Write it down and then review it and see, is this logical, what this person is telling me? Actually, no. No, it isn't. And don't type it. I say to people, typing is the worst. Obviously, as a technologist and someone that builds tech, I type all the time. But what's interesting with typing is it's repetitive. So the motions are repetitive. You're pretty much moving your fingers in the same way. When you write something down, they are minuscule, unique movements. And so your memory center has a better memory when you wrote it versus when you typed it.
That makes so much sense. Can I tell you that as a kid in university, everyone would pull out their laptops in lectures. I was probably one of maybe 3 people in a class of a couple hundred that pulled out a pen and paper with like highlighters, and I would write, and it would be chicken scratch. And afterwards I would like make sense of what I was writing and drawing. But that's the only way that I could actually retain what was being said.
And you probably retained a lot more than your peers did. And I promise you that if you went back to them now and you're like, hey, do you remember like undergrad, or do you remember whatever we were talking about? They probably don't.
Yeah.
And so I encourage people, like, using technology is great. Technology has done so much. But I remember when I was a kid, like I had to learn cursive.
Yeah.
Nobody learns
They don't
cursive.
teach that anymore.
My kid does not
It's
know.
removed from the
It's
curriculum.
totally removed.
Which is wild to me.
It's wild, and it's very dangerous because all of these behaviors activate different parts of the brain.
That's why they existed.
That's why
for
they
so many
existed.
years.
Innovation and change and evolution is important, but there are so many kind of behaviors that we engaged in that were better for our brains that we don't do anymore because they seem like they're useless. So to your point, when you're writing it down, your brain is focusing on it more because it's not a repetitive typing. You're having an experience. So your tactile experience of touching the paper, taking the pen, how you're holding the pen, how you're moving, how you're, it might look like chicken scratch.
Yeah.
But these are unique movements that your brain remembers.
Yeah.
So your brain visually remembers it.
I was just going to say, I visually would remember, like, this was highlighted in green to the left of the page.
Yep.
Like, that's where my memory was triggered. And then I could remember what the actual like content of what was written down. Until this day, I use a physical day planner, and I get made fun of everywhere I go because I'm like, I can't commit to this appointment or this whatever meeting until I have my book with me so I can look. And they're like, why don't you just have it on my phone? I'm like, because I need to physically write things down.
See, you're ahead of the curve.
Thank you so much.
Everybody thinks that they need to, and hey, I use my phone for everything.
Yeah, no, me too.
It reminds me, and there's different things, but I have a physical, like,
I love that.
I have a physical, like, notepad that I write down. Here's what I have to do. Here's what needs to get done. And sometimes when I'm writing down, my to-do list or whatever, ideas come to me. I'm like, I observed this, or I noticed this, or I had this interaction with somebody. Journaling is really, really powerful. Yeah. I encourage people to journal. I hate journaling. I really, really don't like it.
It feels silly to like sit down and be like, I'm going to write down all my feelings and what I did today. And
my diary kind of thing. Yeah. It's like, I'm not a teenager. Why am I doing that? But when you write things down there's so many different parts of there's your vision center, like you said. You remember, there's the color, where is it? There's the geography of the page. You're like, oh, it was here and it was this color. And yeah, I was sitting here and there was somebody beside me. This is what they were doing. Your brain takes this visual information. There's something called the parietal cortex that helps you navigate where you are and know, like even my brain right now knows where I am in relation to you, knows how far apart we are. That's called proprioception. You know your surroundings. So when you physically write things, there's your vision center, there's your parietal cortex, there's your memory center.
You're activating all these parts of your brain.
Activating all these parts of your brain in a way that you just wouldn't if you're typing things, because it's repetitive.
Right.
And usually when I'm typing, I'm not looking, like I remember when I was in university, I wasn't looking at the screen.
No.
I was looking at the prof.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you're writing, I mean, sometimes I was looking at the prof, but I was going back and forth. My eyes were tracking back and forth, and I'd be like, okay, next line. Yeah. Oh, did he say that? Cross that, scribble that, whatever. You don't usually, like behaviorally, you don't do that when you type.
No, you don't.
Half the time when I'm texting people,
you're doing it without
looking.
even looking. Right.
And so this encourages cognitive laziness. This encourages you to just go into this, this default mode network, which is good to access, but you don't want to access it when you're actively trying to learn something.
Yeah.
And so, I think what is so powerful about the neuroscience behind love, relationships, learning, thinking, stress, memory, it really does help us to think, oh, there's so much more that my brain is doing in this moment, and so much more that I could get it to do.
Yeah.
If I just knew. And the feedback that I got from a lot of people kind of since the book came out June 1st was, I didn't know why I was doing things, but now I understand.
Yeah.
And I know what not to do.
I was just going to say, it gives you a whole new evaluation of how you approach things and how you receive things too. Because you're coming at it from a different part of understanding in your brain. And then, like you said, having like cognitive control over your response. But that was full circle moment. Sarah, I feel like this is what I hate about this is that I could talk to you for so many hours. So you're just going to have to come back.
I'm always happy to come back.
Okay, good.
I think that all I want for people to feel, and I encourage people, if they're reading a part of the book, I've had people reach out to me and say, I don't agree with that. I'm like, let's have a discussion about it.
Yeah.
Science, psychology, the whole cognitive science space is about questioning. It's about questioning. It's about having a dialogue. And a good scientist knows that there's so much they don't know. That's the whole theory. There's so many things we don't know. And so I love that you enjoyed it. I can see that you have like all these like
I do. If you get a close-up shot, I have things highlighted and folded, and like honestly, I'm going to use it as like a reference point too to certain things. So thank you. For people also watching and listening, where can they buy your book?
The book is on Amazon. It's on Walmart. It's on Indigo for people in the US. It's on Barnes & Noble. But it was, I think, the most intense thing I shared with you. It's sold out in the first 5 days.
Wow.
And then it's sold out again last week on Amazon.
Yes.
So people seem to like exploring their brain.
I can understand why. That's not a surprise for me. Who would have thunk that, science and emotion would be encapsulated in one conversation on a podcast? Because I don't think that's very common. But Sarah, I appreciate it.
A smart, brilliant woman. I always tell you this. And that's the conversations we need.
Yeah.
Like we have these smart, brilliant, kind of boundary pushing conversations because women are smart and brilliant and kind of kick ass.
I have one sitting in this chair right over here.
Vice versa.
Love you, lady. Thank you so much.
Thank you.